Good morning. A milestone debut. The president is to return home after attending the first international debut of a Korean-made nuclear reactor in the United Arab Emirates. After the national divorce rate hit its peak in 2003, it has been on a gradual decline. Why? Find out on this Married Couples Day. 3 mobile service providers come off suspension and they're ready to entice consumers with eye-catching deals again. But are you really getting the deal you think you're getting? And get rid of that blender because there's a better way to juice. Juicers and dubu makers on hot items on Korea Today, Wednesday, May 21st, 2014.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
And good morning. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday edition of Korea Today. I'm Oh Jin-ju alongside Kim Min-jung and Kim Yang. Today is another special day in the month of May. It's Married Couples Day. Happy Married Couples Day to both of you.
Well, not that we're married to one another or anything, but you know why it's celebrated on the 21st of May? I told you this last year, but something tells me you don't remember. It's the day two become one, so it's celebrated on the 21st.
That's right. Two become one. That's why it's on the 21st, as you mentioned, last year and this year as well. So, and I don't think we're doing anything really special on this. We have the anniversary and we don't want to spin off of it. Besides,
but a lot of couples are celebrating today and taking wives or husbands out to a romantic dinner. So maybe you can do that as well.
Now this is pressure that you're giving me.
And this day first started when a pastor in Korea first saw a Children's Day interview of a kid saying that his wish is to live together with his mom and dad when the divorce rate was increasing here in the country. So he was the one who pushed it ahead to designate this day as Married Couples Day.
But we are seeing a dip in the divorce rate, apparently. We will have that for you with Connie Kim joining us later in the show, so do stay tuned. But we will begin this morning with our top story. President Park Geun-hye is on her way back from the United Arab Emirates, where she had attended the installation ceremony of a nuclear reactor that was developed and built using Korean technologies. The export of the power-generating reactor to Baraka, west of Abu Dhabi, came as part of a contract signed in 2009 to provide 4 homegrown reactors, as Seoul hopes to gain the right to operate the power plants once they're complete by 2020. On the sidelines, Korea and the UAE signed 3 MOUs agreeing on greater cooperation in the nuclear industry and a college internship exchange program. President Park also sat down with the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, who thanked her for keeping her promise to visit in the midst of the Seoul ferry disaster. She also paid a visit to Korea's ARC military unit, which has been stationed in the Middle Eastern country since 2011 to provide military training and conduct joint drills as part of the Seoul-Abu Dhabi military cooperation.
For the first time in the history of the Catholic Church, a cardinal will be setting foot on North Korean soil. According to the Unification Ministry, South Korean Cardinal Andrew Yeom-soo-jung is to make a historic visit to the Inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex located in North Korea on this Wednesday. Cardinal Yeom will make the visit with a total of 7 to 8 others and plan to meet South Korean businessmen in the industrial complex. A mass is not likely, but a prayer service for peace and reconciliation between the two Koreas may be held. The visit has been in the works for the past 3 to 4 months and, according to an insider in the Catholic Church, does not have direct relations with Pope Francis's upcoming visit to South Korea.
And also, for the first time, the number of foreign patients who've received medical care in Korean hospitals surpassed the 200,000 mark last year. The Ministry of Health and Welfare said Tuesday over 211,000 patients from 191 countries were treated in Korean medical facilities in 2013, up nearly 33% from the year before. The total medical expenses showed a near 50% increase to amount to 393.4 billion won. That's about $383 million. By country, Chinese patients took the overwhelming majority, followed by Americans, Russians, and Japanese patients in that order. An official at the health ministry said the number of patients from the UAE has jumped a whopping 240% year-on-year in 2013, thanks to a medical agreement with that country, while a growing number of Russian patients will also likely choose to be treated in Korea as they can now visit the country visa-free starting this year.
May is designated Family Month here in Korea with holidays such as Children's Day and Parents' Day, and also one that might be quite unfamiliar in other countries, Married Couples Day, as we mentioned earlier in the program. And to tell us more about this occasion that is unique to Korea, we're now joined by our Connie Kim here in the studio. Good morning, Connie.
Good morning, Jinju. Like you mentioned, today is definitely unique. And what's interesting is that the reason why Married Couples Day falls on May 21st is because numbers 2 and 1 symbolizes the union of two people. So let's take a look at whether married couples are really sticking together with each other longer, with today encouraging couples to think about each other more and to sustain a happy marriage life.
May is the most popular month to get married, and today is the day to celebrate married couples. Husbands and wives who have been together for more than 40 years have been selected as ideal participants at the ceremony. And among them are Yoon Ha-kwon and Lee Myung-won, who have been given this year's Married Couple Award at a ceremony held this week. They say understanding and sacrifice have been key to their long and happy marriage.
I thank my wife for supporting me during our 51 years of marriage.
The annual ceremony hosted by the National Association of Mayors was held at the National Assembly and was also attended by active lawmakers and officials. Korea is the first country to observe Married Couples Day, which is celebrated on May 21st, with the numbers 2 and 1 symbolizing the union of two people.
Designated in 2007, this year marks the 8th event that has been held to remind couples of the importance of a happy marriage.
So are couples taking note and staying together? Yes, they are. It's days like this and other factors that have contributed to couples to stick together over the past 10 years. Since the national divorce rate peaked at its highest in 2003, which experts attribute to the spillover effect from the Asian financial crisis, and since then, the number has been on a gradual decline. Analysts say couples are taking it slow and thinking things through before taking the plunge and saying, "Yes, I do."
The age of men and women getting married has increased. People have become more conservative about marriage, which has led them to stay together longer.
Statistics show the age that men and women are getting married has gone up by more than 2 years from a decade ago. On average, men now get married at 32 and women at 30. Couples have become more considerate about marriage and are thinking through their options. Some experts say those who are not able to financially support a marriage give up on the option of tying the knot. Economics are one of the factors that can lead to couples to split up, but people who do not have the economic foundation to sustain such a union are choosing not to get married in the first place, hence bringing the divorce rate down. Kim also says that couples are now openly discussing their problems, making for healthier relationships that contribute to people staying together longer.
With the society becoming more open, couples are visiting counselors, and efforts made by such institutions have started to play its role, giving couples a chance to think about staying together.
According to one couple, the golden rule to a long and happy marriage seems to lie on one simple principle.
Married couples fight because one doesn't think about the other person's situations. Sacrifice is also important to maintain a happy marriage.
So it's definitely good news to hear that more couples are staying together. But back in the 80s and 90s, the divorce rate was even lower than it is now. Why was that?
Well, the professor I talked to mentioned about women's low social status for the reason. Women's less education and lower financial stability led to women from preventing to speak up for their rights, which led to less divorce rates in the past.
And when comparing to the years right after the Asian financial crisis, when the divorce rate peaked, you talked about the spillover effect in your report. What was the case there?
Well, about the IMF crisis, the expert mentioned about the accumulated problems that burst out after the nation was on track for recovery. So this is why the divorce rate reached its highest point in 2003, which is about 5 to 6 years after the crisis broke out.
Right, and comparing with other countries, perhaps, where does Korea stand when it comes to the number of couples staying married?
Well, it's definitely good news because latest data shows that there are more couples staying together longer in Korea compared to the past. Well, if you look at the divorce rates in 2003, when the divorce rate peaked its highest, Korea was ranked third among OECD countries. Now, fortunately, now Korea is estimated to be at about 9th with about 2.3 in 1,000 people splitting up. So it's definitely positive news for the country, and we hope that more people stick together with each other longer.
We do hope that we could hear more good news about this dropping divorce rate in the future. And this day serves as an opportunity for the married couples to remind each other the importance of having one another. Thank you, Connie, for that report today.
My pleasure.
Good morning. Let's run through the front pages of your newspapers. And today we have all sorts of stories on the local papers. We'll go ahead and kick off with a story on Yu Byung-hun here on 조선일보 first. And the prosecutors yesterday raised the possibility that Yu Byung-hun, the de facto owner of the sunken ferry Seoulho, may be hiding out at a residence of a member of the Evangelical Baptist Church, dubbed the Salvation Sect, or Kuwonpa in Korean. The headline at the top reads, "Yu believed to have fled Kumsuwon to hide in the residence of a devotee." Now, the prosecution said that Yu appears to have already escaped from Kumsuwon, which is the sect's headquarters in Ansong of Gyeonggi-do Province, in a low-key manner. And leaving that story now, we'll go on to some international headlines. First up here on 중앙일보, we'll take a look at this picture. The title of the picture says, "The day after 5 Chinese military hackers indicted by U.S., China, and Russia vow to reach a gas deal." The U.S. has filed criminal charges against 5 Chinese military officers, alleging they hacked into the computer systems of 5 U.S. companies and the labor union to steal trade secrets. But in the meantime, on the other side of the world, just a day following the charges made, China and Russia vowed to reach a gas deal as talks appear to ramp up, with Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russia's Vladimir Putin meeting at the confidence-building CICA summit in Shanghai yesterday. That's the picture that you're seeing here. More details coming up on the gas deal from our Eunice Kim later with international news. Now, in the meantime, we'll go ahead and look at this headline on to the left. The headline says, "China's first military drill in Korea's air defense zone." Now, as the sub-headlines say, that China and Russia kicked off their joint 7-day maritime drills in an area in the East China Sea without prior notice. And this is the first time that Beijing has conducted military drills in the area since Seoul expanded its air defense zone last December. And moving on to 동아일보, let's go ahead and take a look at this story. Under that image, we'll have a look at this one separately. Regarding the U.S., now the story is on heightening protectionist trade measures by the United States. And the headline reads, "Intensified U.S. trade barriers bring panic for export companies." As the sub-headlines note, the U.S. has recently been more explicit in protecting local manufacturers while imposing astronomical amounts of fines and penalties toward foreign export companies. And turning to our business paper here on the Korea Economic Daily. Let's go ahead and take a look at this picture first. The title says, $20 billion nuclear diplomacy. Now, as you see here in the image, President Park Geun-hye yesterday attended an event celebrating the installation of a made-in-Korea nuclear reactor in Baraka, a coastal city west of Abu Dhabi. Now, this marking the debut of Korean nuclear reactors in the global market. And finally, we'll take a look at that story above the image here. The headline reads, "Public employee pension payment cut by 20%. Now, the subheadlines say that starting next year, the government plans to gradually raise the insurance premium rate, and a retired public employee's monthly pension payment will be decreased as well from about 1.8 million Korean won to 1.5 million won. And that was a look at your newspaper headlines for this Wednesday. And coming up are the stock numbers from Tuesday.
So some couples are choosing to go out on a romantic dinner. I know you're not.
Well, now I'm considering it now.
But your wife's watching, so I think you need to.
Well, I hope she's not watching.
The weather better be perfect, right?
That's right, that's right. For more on today's weather on this Married Couples Day, we'll go to Chun Sung-cho, who joins us from the outdoors with more.
Good morning, Sung-cho.
Good morning, guys. I'm reporting live from the Dosan Park, and today is Homan, one of 24 seasonal divisions here in Korea. Like its literal translation, which is to gradually rise up, this is when plants start to grow and fruits become ripe, calling for the official start of summer. Well, the weather can't be more summery these days. The mercury level rose up to 28.4 degrees Celsius here in Seoul yesterday, and today the hot sun is going to heat up even the southern part of the peninsula as well. And with the spell of hot weather across the entire nation, strong UV rays are raising concerns for many people. A high-pressure system over China, slowly approaching the peninsula, will push away the clouds and give off mostly clear skies from later on in the day, which means more UV rays penetrating the atmosphere. So everyone, remember to put on sunscreen 30 minutes before you go outside. And if you're going to be exposed under the sunlight for a longer time, then try to wear hats or sunglasses for more protection. Now let's move on over for a closer look at today's forecast. Warm air blowing from the high-pressure system in the southwest will keep the temperatures above the annual average across the entire country. Seoul's highs are 25, Gangneung the coolest at 21, and Daegu the hottest at 29 degrees Celsius. Watch out for the big differences between the highs and lows in all of those cities. The warm conditions are expected to continue all throughout this week until next Monday, when nationwide rainfall will cool things down a little bit. This is all for me with the weather update, and now back to you, Minjung, in the studio.
Now, as tensions escalate in Thailand, the interim Thai government has proposed a new date for its general elections. We'll take a closer look at this story and much more with our Eunice Kim standing by at the news center. Now, Eunice, before we get to that story, we're getting word this morning of a pair of bomb blasts in Nigeria. What can you tell us?
Hi, Minjung. Yes, we're keeping our eyes on news of this two bomb explosions that rocked a busy market and a bus terminal in the city of Jos in central Nigeria. The death toll from those attacks have jumped to at least 118 just within the past hour or so. Scores other are also reported injured. No group has yet taken responsibility for these attacks, but we do know Islamist militant group Boko Haram had carried out a series of bombings in that area. Also, in recent years, the city has been the site of deadly clashes between Christians and Muslim groups. And turning over to that development in Thailand, Bangkok's interim government has proposed a general election on August 3rd, this about 2 weeks after the previous date it had set for the country's polls. Thailand's election commission, though, last week had said July elections was impossible given the disruptions to the preparatory meetings. The caretaker prime minister now says he will meet with the electoral body today to finalize a date as early as next week. He also said he would speak to the army chief as soon as possible to end the country's political turmoil that has killed 28 people and injured some 700 since protests began November of last year. You'll also remember yesterday Thailand's military declared martial law over the state to restore peace and order, warning against any additional violent demonstrations while emphasizing that it was not a coup.
And now the Korean government is mulling over issuing a travel ban to that country. Now, meanwhile, in China, President Xi Jinping is hosting Russian President Vladimir Putin, who arrived in Beijing yesterday. What's on their agenda?
Well, President Putin is in China for 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, before the two leaders will move on to an Asian security conference in Shanghai. Now, Beijing rolled out the red carpet for President Vladimir Putin, and already President Xi and Putin have signed 49 agreements on energy, transportation, and communications, furthering bilateral ties. But they did not agree on how much China would pay Russia to supply gas over the next 30 years, something you heard about in print a little bit earlier. Expectations had been high that both parties will finalize that natural gas supply contract that's been in the works for the past 10 years and estimated to be worth some $400 billion. There is still one more day, though, in Putin's China stay, so we'll keep an eye on that. The summit also comes as both countries face mounting international criticism, of course. Moscow for its part in Crimea's annexation and the deepening crisis in Ukraine, and Beijing over its territorial disputes in the South China Sea. And according to Russian media, the two leaders in a joint statement agreed that they do both oppose other countries meddling in internal affairs and called for the ceasing on personal sanctions as well. And that wraps your look at the international headlines we're following this morning.
And still ahead on Korea Today, free phones and low, lower, and lowest service plans. There's nothing like getting a generous discount to put a smile on your face. But what's the real story behind the price cuts provided by Korea's mobile carriers? Focal Points breaks it down for you.
This year's Cannes Film Festival is slightly disappointing for the Korean film industry, as there are no Korean films that have been chosen over there for the competition. But there are some being screened, and one has been getting rave reviews at the Directors Fortnight Sidebar. And Arirang joins us with more on this movie. Good morning.
Good morning, Young.
All right, now, what movie is it?
Right, first of all, this is directed by Kim Sung-hoon. This is his second movie, and it's an action thriller called A Hard Day, and it was screened at the Directors Fortnight.
Okay, now the Directors Fortnight Sidebar, it runs parallel to the Cannes Film Festival. It's not a competitive event, but at the same time being screened there is prestigious, right? What's the reviews on the film?
Right, so far it was very well received. In fact, it did receive an applause at the end of the screening, and a lot of the film critics did give it high remarks. So now let's take a look at this movie, A Hard Day. The movie stars Lee Sung-kyun, who plays a homicide detective by the name of Ko Gun-soo. It all starts when Ko is on his way to his mother's funeral, but accidentally runs over a stranger. Now, in a semi-drunken panic, he decides to hide the body in his mother's coffin, but the day doesn't end there. In fact, Ko's troubles are just starting, and over the next few days, he gets caught up digging graves, staging fake accidents, dangling from skyscrapers, and fighting for his life as an anonymous blackmailer haunts his every move, threatening to reveal the truth about the accident. All the while, the precinct at the Internal Affairs Division has uncovered Ko and his corrupt team's hidden stash of cash. Now, the roller coaster movie is full of surprise twists and turns and characteristic of a classic thriller. A Hard Day leaves the audience holding their breath through multiple false endings.
And it kind of reminds me of the film, the movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer. It kind of has a theme that's a bit similar, but at the same time, it's classified as a thriller. Many Korean movies have, many Korean directors have actually released very good thrillers these days, but it's also classified under action as well, so it's not short on action scenes.
Right, so the action scenes are really something to note with this movie. The actors actually, Lee Sung-kyun actually said that this is one of his first action movies, and he wanted to really throw his whole body into the movie, and in doing so, he actually threw the punches and received the punches as well, so I think he came out out with a few bruises and scratches, but very good action scenes.
Yeah, at a contrast to Hollywood actors, Korean actors, they do a lot of their own stunts, right? Okay, for the Korean audience, when can we catch this film?
Right, so it's available on the 29th this month, so you're going to have to wait a week or so to catch it in theaters. But the fact that it did receive attention at this festival, at the showing, it did mean that it bolstered attention here in Korea for the moviegoers here. And so people are getting very excited to watch this movie next week.
Although no films were selected for the Cannes Film Festival, it's good to know that there are Korean films out there that are being screened. Thank you very much, Uni.
My pleasure.
And still ahead on Korea Today, later on, we're going to look at some juicers. Now, if you're still using a blender to make those healthy juices for you, then you're doing it all wrong. So make sure to eat healthy, and we'll teach you how to do it. On Hot Items Today, Angela Park brings us information on handy food processors for healthy living.
And time now to check the keywords trending online. Now, the average lifespan of owners of Korean conglomerates was found to be not as long as many would imagine.
Right. It makes us realize once again that health is something you cannot buy or protect with money. Let's go over to our Sammi-Sorang at the digital room for more. Sammi-Sorang?
Good morning.
Good morning. You know, these people, they have this enormous wealth and access to the very best of everything. Food, fitness, and medical care, you name it. The question is, does all this make a difference in their lifespan? I'll get to the bottom of this in just a minute, but first, let's see what else was trending the past 24 hours. Patients diagnosed with contact dermatitis rises in the month of May, and as our units reported earlier in Global Updates, the Thai Army declared martial law yesterday. Also happening yesterday, Samsung chief Lee Gon-hee was moved from the intensive care unit to the general ward, whilst whole city held a forum to celebrate Together Day, a day to honor Koreans and foreigners living together in Korea and respecting each other's cultures. Now, going back to those lifespan, the average lifespan of conglomerate heads in Korea is 76 years. Who lived the longest and who lived the shortest? Let's have a look. Website Table.com released yesterday the lifespan of those who headed the country's top 40 conglomerates. The 31-person list consisted of the founders and their blood relatives. The tycoon who lived the longest was Jang Byung-hee, founder of the Yongpung Group. He enjoyed a long life, spanning 93 years until his passing in 2002. By contrast, Choi Jong-gon, the SK Group founder, passed away in 1973 from lung cancer at just 48 years of age. Most died in their 70s and 80s, with 20 former heads falling into this category. Now, according to the latest figures reported by WHO, UN, and the CIA in the States, life expectancy for a male born in South Korea is between 76 and 78 years. So when you compare this to the average lifespan of these tycoons at 76 years, there's not much difference. So I guess when it comes to life and death, we're all on the same playing ground, no matter how much money or power you have in the middle. Moving on to our next issue, as temperatures rise in the month of May, it signals increased outdoor activities for most. Unfortunately for some, however, this also means an increase in contact dermatitis. Let's take a look. According to a report released by the Health Insurance Review on the 18th, there was a 22% increase in the prevalence of contact dermatitis over the past 4 years. And the monthly increase is the greatest in May, when the incidence sharply rises by an average of 25% from April. Now, this is attributed to an increase in outdoor activities and the consequent increase in exposure to pollen, high UV rays, and fine dust. Symptoms range from mild itching to a full-blown allergic shock, and if moderate to severe contact dermatitis is left untreated, it may cause scarring or even change the skin color in that region, so prevention and early treatment is paramount. Doctors suggest washing the exposed areas with soap as soon as you come home and to see your doctor if symptoms persist. Now, scratching the area can cause the area to become infected on top of contact dermatitis, so try to resist it as much as you can. And that's a wrap up for today's News Sum Up. Please take care. I'll be back with more updates tomorrow.
And good morning to you all as we kick things off with the South Korean national football team as the KFA invited the former head coaches of the national team for a luncheon and held a press conference regarding the current World Cup team. Now, with the event taking place at the National Training Center in Paju, 6 of the former head coaches of the South Korean national football team got together to offer their words of encouragement. They stated that although the team is the youngest in history at just under 26 years old on average, they have the most experience and should be able to help them in Brazil. They added that their midfield, which consists of players like Ki Sung-young and Lee Chung-young, is the strongest point and hope that they will play with full confidence. And staying with football, but over to the upcoming Asian Dream Cup 2014, which is hosted annually by Park Ji-sung and his JS Foundation. With the Asian Dream Cup 2014 in Indonesia taking place from June 1st to the 2nd in Jakarta, Indonesia, the JS Foundation revealed their star-studded roster for the event. And the roster includes former Italian defender Gianluca Zambrotta, who played for teams like Barcelona, Juventus, and AC Milan. The roster also includes Chung Dae-se, a.k.a. the North Korean Wayne Rooney, who currently plays for the Suwon Samsung Blue Wings in the K-League Classic. And shifting over to the Korean Basketball League, where a new commissioner will be chosen on Thursday. And going after the job as the newest commissioner of the KBL will be 64-year-old Kim In-gyu, who is the former president of Korea Broadcast Station, as he has always expressed his desire to serve as the commissioner of the league. Meanwhile, going up against him will be the former KBL commissioner, 78-year-old Kim Young-gi, who previously held the position from November of 2002 to April of 2004. And now finishing things off with some Tuesday night's KBO action, the Nexen Heroes beat the Hanwha Eagles 3-1 with the Kia Tigers beating the LG Twins in a high-scoring game 10-7. And the NC Dinos dominated the struggling SK Wyverns 8-2. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the Samsung Lions and the Lotte Giants. Of course, going into the game here, we go over to the 3rd inning. Kim Sang-soo grounds out to third, scoring as Lee Ji-young, and it's 1-0 Samsung. 5th inning with 2 men on, Park Sung-min drills this ball to deep left field. There it goes, gone, a 3-run shot, and it's 4-0 Samsung. We're not done yet. 6th inning this time. Bases loaded. Park Han-hee singles to the right side. 2 more score, and it's now 6-0. Meanwhile, 8th inning of the game, Lotte Giants with the bases loaded, no out. Luis Jimenez strikes out, 1 out. Choi Jun-suk up next, and he's going to pop out to second base. Infield fly rule in effect, and it's 2 outs. Next batter, Hwang Jae-gyun, he's going to fly out to center field as they failed to score with their big chance. These Samsung Lions never look back in this game as they take this game 7-2, your final score. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Now, following a 45-day ban from signing on new subscribers by the Korea Communications Commission, Korea's 3 main mobile carriers resumed full operations on Tuesday. Now, this ban rooted from the carriers providing illegal incentives to sign on new users. Our Dr. Kim Byung-ju joins us to make sense of all this. Good morning.
Good morning.
Help us out here.
Oh, this is a very complicated subject here, but the thing is, we've been hearing a lot through the Korean media, all these subsidies and even like so-called chaos in the marketing.
Right.
Yes. And so we have a lot of stuff to sort out here. Basically, the core of the issue is that the Korean mobile phones, which are mostly smartphones, are very expensive, right?
Very expensive.
About $1 million.
$1 million won,
I would say double some of the prices.
Right. And nobody really pays that $1 million, $1 million won upfront here, right? They have all these different kinds of pay plans and stuff. I wonder what your experience has been like so
Well,
far.
basically, you just they just tell you that this is how much the phone is, but this is how much you'll pay after a 2-year lease on a certain type of a plan.
And oftentimes the price gets lower and lower and lower till like it's half the price oftentimes.
The more you pay on your basic plan, the less you pay on the phone.
You got it right there. and about not even paying the whole price, the key element that makes that possible is the subsidy, of course, right? We've been hearing about all these subsidies. We have basically two different kinds. You have already mentioned, like upfront, there'll be often deep kind of discount upfront. That's one kind. And the other one that a lot of people, most people use is the monthly plan. And we spread out and monthly. And when you actually get your own phone, you don't really pay that much money, even at all, because this is all spread out through the month. And in Korea, this is quite unique here in this country, because in other countries, they don't really allow this kind of two different kinds of subsidies available, being made available to the consumers at the same time. But in Korea, that's being done. And through these different channels of subsidies and so on, all this money is being spread out. And they're talking about altogether 7 to 8 trillion won every year, being offered in the form of so-called subsidy. But we'll talk about this later on. But the name is subsidy, but at the end, it doesn't turn out to be actually subsidy in nature. We'll talk more about that. But let's bring up the graphics that we have prepared to explain the characteristics of the Korea's mobile telecom market, and they'll offer us a better idea. Here, basically in Korea, what's unique is the mobile service carriers actually sell the handsets together with their sales. This makes Korean market very unique. And there you see those subsidies right there that comes in, those different items, 3 different items right there, right? Right next to the minus one. So if you add up those black, subsidies together, they all together add up about 7 to 8 trillion won every month. And we've been flowing a little bit too fast here, but what we saw was the market structure here in Korea. Well, since its graphic is moving on too fast, I'll just stay with the story here. But we have a market structure here in Korea. SK and KT and LG, they dominate about 5-3-2 of the market. 50%, 30%, and 20%.
So SK Telecom is
SK has about half of it, and then KT about 30%, and LG has about 20% of it. And interesting thing, what you just saw on the screen was that this market share did not really change over past like a 10-year period. And so what's happening is, and besides, we know this market is saturated. We have about 55 million people using the 55 million subscription accounts, which is more than the size of the population. Right. And if you exclude babies and so on, we have many phones here. So it's a really saturated market. And with this 5-3-2 division, they've been pulling away customers from the other camp back and forth using this kind of money, so-called subsidy. And that has been creating a lot of problems, at least in the minds of the regulators, for one, and also has confused consumers big time. So that has been a real issue here.
I believe that the government actually set the subsidy at about 270,000 won, and that's how it's currently set at, right? But you did mention the word teran, or chaos, just a little while ago. And I talked to some people out there, well, I got my phone for this much, and they're saying, well, I got my phone for free. And they usually
makes people upset.
And then you get upset.
Teran is, I don't like the Korean term here, because teran means chaos, but it doesn't really reflect what's happening here. What we are talking about here is sort of like a guerrilla marketing that we call here in Korea. Like, it just pops up somewhere at certain unpredictable time at different location. It's not being offered to everybody or evenly, but you have to just find it through the internet search and so on. And they offer this outrageous amount of, it sort of like looks like clearance sale or something, like a 200,000 won or so amount of money, and all of a sudden deep discounts, and then you show up with this proud face, telling your friend that I got this phone almost for free, and making your friends really upset. So basically, that has been what's been happening, and a lot of people have had confused idea about what teran really is.
It feels like there's a catch, though. Is this chaos benefiting the consumers? There must be something iffy going on.
That's a key question here. But the thing is, the retailers who actually know what's going on in the market, other than the handset makers and the service providers, they're insiders of the market. But retailers are kind of like somewhere between the consumers and then these big businesses, right? And the retailers tell us it doesn't really benefit at all.
Right.
Because it's all enriching the handset manufacturers as well as service providers. But it's not really benefiting the consumers here because of all these complicated points, which we'll still cover towards the end of this segment. But basically, the overall structure in terms of what's been happening so far has gross problem with the fairness, lack of fairness altogether, and the lack of transparency. People don't know what is going on, basically. So that's why we've been talking about some kind of change in the society so far.
Okay, well, it seems that I really don't know what's going on. I'll tell you that. All I know is just go for this best deal. But apparently, a lot of people are saying that this is a telecoms market that is a bit skewed.
Right.
That needs normalization.
But the thing is, yeah, normalization requires some kind of new law here.
Right, and there will be a new law introduced in October, I believe.
Yeah, we've been calling this interesting name, 단통법, meaning like the handset market natural normalization law. And we have an interview prepared, actually, telling us what this law will be doing. Let's bring it up.
Simply put, it aims to quell the confusion in the telecom market and provide a wider range of choices to the consumers. It not only bans providing unfair subsidies at certain hours or locations, but also calls for the disclosure of all price informations, including those of the subsidies. It also allows the consumers to choose between subsidies or service fee discounts. Even after the law goes into force, constant monitoring, management, and supervision are required. Expansion of the consumer's choices in mobile service plans is also another important task.
So basically, the law that he is talking about does basically two things. One is requiring everybody, meaning everyone involved in the business, to abide by the cap on the subsidy. Okay, so that's a strict cap that we are talking about. Through the so-called 대란 or chaos programs, they've been kind of like finding other ways going around. But now the subsidy cap is fully placed in place, and then full disclosure with the subsidy. How much are you offering? So that's a very critical action. And basically, second part of the law is that no discrimination. See, with this kind of chaos program, whatever, some people got free deal, other people got expensive deal. So they said no discrimination anymore. So whatever you offer, disclose it, and then offer it to everybody.
So be more transparent.
Exactly. At least on our side, the confusion, I think, will be reduced. So that's expected benefit that's happening right here.
Okay, that was, basically all the regions are going to get fair prices on the phones as well. But in March, after, they were caught doing this, doing the 대란 thing that was going on, they did promise that they are going to stick with the pledge of not giving away excessive subsidies. But now they're back on the market, and there's already articles popping out here and there about them trying to make up for what they couldn't do for the 45 days.
And the online sales of handsets were shot up during those 2 months.
Right, exactly. But this time, with this new law that's coming in, that was just explained on the screen, they can no longer do that. Starting from October, there will be heavy fines and heavy punishment for violating new law. So hopefully we won't get to see much of the further confusion here. The telecom service providers have been taking their own actions. They're saying, well, we will reduce our service fee because based on recognition, they are not saying it, but based on recognition that they've been charging consumers too high, that has caused all the confusion. So actually, the awareness is being spread in Korea right at this point that the all cause of this confusion and lack of transparency was because of expensive handset prices and then expensive service charges. So there are lawsuits going on initiated by NGOs on the court asking the service providers and handset makers to lower their prices. With these high prices, with all these subsidies and so on, these are all kind of fakely made, and that's the money actually these manufacturers and service providers enjoy rather than consumers get to benefit from.
I'll be honest with you, I'm lost. I've lost track of this conversation midway, but
if they cut the price, there will be no
I'll be happy
fat.
with a
Right,
low
exactly.
price.
So that's what's going to happen.
As long
Lean
as
and mean system.
Lower prices for all, and we're happy, right?
Exactly.
Right there, you got the points today.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kim.
Thank you very much.
Happy Married Couples Day.
I do not celebrate this day.
Okay, well, she doesn't celebrate, but one of these days she will, right? Angela Park joins us this morning for a talk on health food products. Now, juicing, I had no idea that there were separate juicers. I just thought it was a blender. You just mix it all into one, blend it together, and you drink that, right? So
I have so much
I'm a
to teach you.
Neanderthal in the world of juicing, so school me. Oh, Angela.
All right, well, I don't know even if you are able to make sure you get your nutritious breakfast every morning, Young, because I do know you have a very busy start to your day. But there's been a lot of fads in terms of detoxes. So people are trying to buy ingredients for these detox juices. There's also blood detoxes that's supposed to detox your whole blood system in your body, right? But and the thing is, like you mentioned, there are different types of juicers. So the first hot items product is actually called Cubings. This is from NUC Electronics, and the key here is it's a whole slow juicer. That's the key point.
So I've heard on the internet some cold pressure juicing and stuff, and now this is a whole juicer.
That's right.
So how does this work? Which one should we go to first?
We're going to work with these two.
Right.
I'm going to make two different types of juices. The first thing that I want to point out is that most juicers, you want tomato?
Yes.
Most juicers, they use blades, right? And they usually rotate about 1,000 to 24,000 or 2,400, I'm sorry, rotations per minute. Now, this is very fast. It creates frictional heat, and that can result in a loss of enzymes and nutrients in your juice, which basically defeats the whole purpose of juicing, right?
So we're getting to the science of juicing there. There's a little tomato, you just drop it in there just like so?
Yeah, it's the patented technology that they have. It's a low-speed masticating system there. So basically, let me explain it to you. There's more of a kind of a screw rather than rotating blades, and this slowly squeezes the fruits and veggies. You can see that it maintains the color and the flavor of the fruit, and you basically have 100% of the extract. Pulp, skin, everything is used to create it.
Okay, so you're saying that it has no blade causing friction and heat while it is grinding everything together.
Yes.
So it's going to keep all the nutritious
You really want that
intact.
tomato. I can sense it.
Can we try it?
I'm going to turn on the machine just a second. Okay, get it going there. Just drop it in. You notice that Young, use this to shove it down, is basically putting in the entire fruit. He's not chopping it up into little pieces like most juicers need. And that can cut your preparation time by like a third, right, of other juices. Okay. Now you see the screw rotating, and it's basically resulting in the squeezing and the extraction of the tomato, and you see all that pulp? It's all mixed in with the juice. It's not separated. Not to mention, because you're not slicing and chopping up the fruit, there's less air that's contacting with the fruit before you put in. Yeah, you're probably gonna need more, which means there's deeper flavor, there's deeper scent in your juice as well.
Okay, this is easy too, and it's not noisy. That's what I like
it's not
about
too bad.
this.
It's not like the sound, right?
The reason I can't have juice in the morning is because those grinders are just so, the blenders are so noisy. It's.
After we get this second tomato, I think that's enough for you to get a flavor
So
or
what
taste.
is this on the side?
This is all
This
the
is just
pulp extracts
Okay,
or
so this is
seeds and stuff, right?
have this like yogurt later on, right?
If you want to, Young, I will not stop you.
Okay, so I would imagine that our producers want me to drink this because they love it when I eat stuff.
A little bit more there. I'm sure. Young's like really hasty. Did you not have breakfast this morning?
No.
Okay, that's probably why.
I'm very
But this is
hungry.
very nutritious. Tomatoes are so good for you, whether it's a fruit or veggie. I'm always there's the debate about that, right?
Okay.
Can we turn it off just so that we can stop it? There you go. Here, I'll switch this one out with you.
Okay, cool. So I just pour it right here. And it was a pretty easy process. All I had to do was just drop it in there and just let it do the trick, right?
How does it taste? I know I didn't cook it, but I feel responsible for it somehow.
It's good.
Oh, yeah?
It's good.
Tomato?
Can you like add sugar in it if it's a little bit too bland for you?
That defeats the purpose of juicing.
Oh.
But you did bring up a second point. Mixing fruits and veggies, that's good, right? Because, you know, you don't only use one fruit for juicing. So let's use a second juicer for that. Apple, that's a good idea. So I'll open it up. You want to do it like last time? Or the tomato juice? You're pretty good at it.
You just drop it in there.
Yep. And let's do a carrot. I wonder if it can fit. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to push it in. Now we have to kind of watch. Oh, I gotta close the power cap. That's the key point I forgot to mention there. You notice that the extract will come immediately out of here, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to mix it, then you close this cap so that it can keep the apple extract in there.
And this, do I have to cut this?
No,
or
no, no. The
just
whole
the
thing,
whole
drop it in. And then if I can use my muscles, there you go. it'll mix with the carrot so that the juices kind of circulate together in there.
Wow.
And then once you feel like it's had enough mixing, then you open up the power juice cap, and then it'll release your apple and carrot juice, right?
Okay.
So,
can you put ice shavings into this too, or maybe like little cubes of ice?
no, this is more of a juicer. Maybe you can mix it in after, right? There you go. There is your apple and carrot juice. Voila. I picked these fruits on purpose, Young, because you know, fruits are easy to eat, but vegetables are the key. Even with juicers, you don't want to put too much fruits because especially can result in maybe even diabetes and whatnot from what I read in research.
Okay, and we'll save that for our team over there, Minjung
right.
and Jinja, are eagerly watching this juicing system here. Okay, now these are the juicers that we just looked at, and now we're looking at another health food product.
Yes.
You can make your own tubu.
Exactly. Tubu is Korean for tofu. Now, tofu has always been considered really healthy food, diet-friendly as well. In the U.S. right now, it's getting touted as the unfattening cheese, right? So very, very popular. But in terms of the origins of the soybeans, in terms of the process, how hygienic is it? A lot of people, especially mothers, are concerned. So Soy Love is the product, the second one, and this allows you to make tofu in your own home in about 25 minutes.
Okay, so it allows you to make your own tubu. Show us, make my tubu.
Okay, I'm gonna explain
it. Takes a while, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's about a 25-minute process. So how it works is you get water, about 1,700 millimeters of water should do, and then you put in about 100 grams of soybeans in the strainer. You attach it to the top compartment or part of the machine, press the button, and then it'll basically soak the soybeans, grind it up for you, and then you're going to have a soft tofu mixture. Then you put the tofu hardening mix it with a little water, pour it in the soy milk, and this will create chunks that you can pour into the molder or the strainer there, wrap it up in the gauze paper there, and then press and mold and shape it into the square tofu that we often see being sold at supermarkets.
And with the tubu, you can go ahead and put it into a soup-based product. You can fry it, which kind of defeats the purpose, but you can boil it, and you can make tubu kimchi, which is another crowd favorite here in Korea.
You really like frying your food. I'm starting to pick up on a pattern
tubu kimchi,
here.
you
well, the kimchi's a little bit fried.
Well, you kind of, but you know, that's all right. I guess we
right. No, but it's healthier, and think of it as, I guess, organic essentially, because you're making it in your own home.
And Angie would be going home and making this, right? The tubu salad over here.
Well, let me show you what the mixture looks like, because a lot of our viewers may be concerned. Now, keep in mind, this mixture is basically soy milk. If you add a little bit less water, you can make your own soy milk, and that's one function. It's a little bit heavy, so I'm going to try to lift it. So this is
cameras to get it, but go ahead.
Let's pour in the soy milk here. And then I already put the tofu hardening powder in the bucket below, so it's already going to start to develop some chunks there. And anything that gathers at the top like this, this is actually really well kind of mixed here, but sometimes it comes out chunkier. Then you can use it for what we call piji in Korean,
That's right. With tubu and the making of tubu from soy milk form, I mean not soy milk, but the soybean form, then really nothing goes to waste. As you mentioned, it makes the soy milk. You can also have the tubu and the piji.
I don't know if our cameras can pick up on this, but it's already starting to make some chunks in because of the hardening, what's it called, powder, right? So you can see a little bit there. I don't want to pour it out, but you can see that it's already forming about 10 minutes, and you pour it into the molder, and that will create tofu. There's also other functions to make porridge. We made some pumpkin porridge before the show, and like I said, soy milk. Basically, you don't mix it with the tofu hardening mix, and then you could just drink it as soy milk.
Okay, so we've been looking at some of the products that don't really take up a lot of space and doesn't make a lot of noise either, and you can easily make some of your health food products from juices to tubu and soy milk as well. Angela?
Healthier start.
We are going to have our Minjung and the Jinjin join us here.
We are all ready to enjoy some healthy drinks.
And you are going to
Thanks for the invitation.
broccoli juice. Okay?
Broccoli.
All right.
You might have to chop that. It won't fit in here.
Oh, yikes. You're going to make us a broccoli juice?
Well, first, we have the juice, this apple and tomato juice that was made earlier on. So we'll give you
Look
a little
at the
bit
color
of this.
of that. It's so pretty.
It is pretty.
Okay, we'll give you that much.
Beta carotene for your eyes.
There you go. I'm actually interested in this soy milk. It's going to be a power drink for your kids, too.
Exactly.
If you add some maybe strawberry powder
That's a good
or chocolate
idea.
powder. So this is the soy milk? Or is
Right,
this
well,
the
that
leftover
we
tofu?
mixed it with the tofu hardening mix, so now it's going to be tofu in about 5 more minutes or so. But if I hadn't put in
that packet, then it would just be soy milk.
I don't think I want to drink dubu in the morning. But this is great. Thank you so much, Angela, for everything.
Thank you.
I would give you some, but there's nothing left in
cheers?
here. Thank you so much for bringing the juice, and cheers to you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, that's all we have prepared for you on this Wednesday morning.
And enjoy your Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Cheers to happy married couples day.
All right, I'll drop